all right. Party people in the place to be, vandals, and all you budding sleuths out there. This is a brand new episode of How Did We Get Here? And this afternoon, we are talking to a very special guest from the UK. He's got a new Kickstarter out. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself. How are you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. So I'm Joel Meadows. I've been editor-in-chief of Tripwire Magazine and website for over 30 years now. But we've also expanded out into publishing comics. So this is the second volume that we're producing of our Sherlock Holmes original graphic novel, which is Sherlock Holmes and the Empire Builders, which is a sci-fi steampunk adventure. So this is the second installment of that story. We did a campaign at the end of 2023, which went extremely well. So we're creating a follow-up book to that. So it's a Sherlock Holmes story, but you've never seen Holmes like this before. So it's myself and my US artist co-creator Andy Bennett. So basically, Holmes loses Watson. Watson leaves, and he goes to unravel DNA helix with Crick, because in real life you had Crick and Watson, and then Oswald Mosley, who was a kind of a right wing, a real historical figure. He creates an army of super soldiers with the help of the knowledge that they've created, and then so Holmes has to sort of battle against Watson and the forces of evil. So it's a grand steampunk story, and we've had some amazing feedback from the first one, and having a lot of fun putting the second book together, which is the second part of the story.
Yeah, you got some killer acclaim for this, man. Like a lot of really, really big, amazing creators were just singing his praise. You got like Richard Taylor, Brian Talbot, Jeff Loeb. I mean, like DeMatteis, Kelly Jones. I mean,
Yes.
the list goes on, man. Just people singing the praises for this book, and it's well deserved, man.
Well,
This is
thank you.
this is a quite ambitious Sherlock Holmes tale. If I do say so myself, at least from what I see in the first installment, you
Mm.
kind of go with the more 7% solution style Holmes, where he's kind of
Oh
got
yeah, totally.
a substance a problem a bit. You kind of glaze over that a little bit, which I was like, ooh, cool. He's going there with this. I like it, and also I liked it. You're keeping it within the realm of like the original, because like he was always going against like Masonic type
Yes.
orders and stuff. And this, it's kind of more like the government as a total, but there does seem to be kind of a society as well, the empire builders, and glory to the empire, like they say to each other. So like that's all really rad. Where did this all come from? Is this something that you've thought of just over all the years, like with all the other Holmes media? Like how did this come to your mind for you?
Well, basically, this has been over 20 years in the making. About 20 plus years ago, I started thinking about this, and I did join forces with an artist, which didn't quite work out, unfortunately. But I was introduced to Andy Bennett after that, and I was thinking I've always been a fan of Holmes. I like Young Sherlock Holmes, the film. Um, I really like The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes, which is the Billy Wilder film with Robert Stevens, which was a slightly darker take. I've always been a fan of Holmes. I mean, Holmes. Well, I see Holmes in the same way. You see somebody like James Bond or Batman, or Scarlet Pimpernel. They're very adaptable. They're iconic characters, but you can do so much with them. I
Mhm.
mean, I've taken Holmes from his comfortable setting, and I've moved it into like a alternate Edwardian place, basically, where he's out of place. He's lost the house in Baker Street, because he couldn't solve the Jack the Ripper murders. So basically, he's now living in Whitechapel. He's living kind of on his uppers a little bit. So he's not. He seems to have lost some of his skills, but he hasn't lost all of them. But he's not as comfortable, and he's not as he's out of place in this new setting that we've created. And I thought it'd be a great way, to introduce a new story that would be very different from the other home stories that people have seen. So we pitched it to a couple of publishers. No one was interested about 20 odd years ago. And then we do a thing called Lost Tales on our website. And my colleague Scott Braden does interviews about comics, which never happened. And he said, "Have you got anything to talk about?" And I said, "Yeah, we did try to go do the Sherlock Holmes strip. And we talked about it. And, it got me thinking, this is about 2018. It got me thinking that maybe we should resurrect the idea. So we did three shorts. We did three 8-page, I think two 8-page and one 6-page short, um, in the magazine, and they went really well. They were really well received. And then we ran them together in our anniversary book in 2022. And then we thought we'd jump in and do a full length graphic novel. But the story was so ambitious that we couldn't do it as a single installment. So we split it. So there's the first book, the volume one, which came out it actually shipped in January of this year, and then volume two will be out in spring of next year, which is 120 pages. So it's a pretty meaty story. So I'm really proud of it. And the nice thing about doing the shorts is I was able to kind of train my brain, and it's short. It takes real discipline to write short comic stories, because you have to really pack everything in. You have to be really tight. So I think that my writing ability was better by the time we got to the longer story. So yeah, it's taken about 20 years, amazingly. And I was lucky that I could ask Walt Simonson to do an original cover for the first book, and Mark Chiarello, and then loads of pin-ups from people like Barry Kitson, and um, loads of other people. And then the second book, we got Dan Penosi an original cover, and we also have a Fraser Irving. So thanks to working on the magazine for over 30 years, I built up a pretty amazing contact list, and that was the Fraser Irving piece in the first book. So yes, so no, I'm very proud of it. It's really nice. It's really come together, and I think the second book's been a little bit easier to put together and easier to write, because we've done the first one already.
I'm really happy you mentioned young Sherlock Holmes. That's actually my introduction to the character as well. When I was a young kid, that was a brand new
Mhm.
movie.
It's a great film. It's a
Yeah,
fantastic. I mean, I was too young to watch it at the cinema, but I saw it on TV, and I really love, and I think it's such a shame that we didn't get to see any more adventures, with the same actors, because I thought it was, they really capture the flavour of the character there, and I thought that, I thought that it was incredibly well cast, and it was just it's a really fun film, and I may end up having to rewatch it, because I do that from time to time, and I think it was a really clever film.
yeah, indeed. So, this particular story, the Empire Builders, the Genie, it's only gonna be these two installments, these two books that you have here, or is it gonna?
Well, I mean, basically, the first story is just two parts, but I'm already thinking about a third book, which would be a standalone adventure with another Conan Doyle creation. So the story does wrap itself up. It does resolve at the end of volume two. But as I said, I've already started to think about a third book, which would be a standalone adventure. So we are planning some other stories, but I just thought but the Genie story will end at the end of volume two.
Okay. And so this particular story, they got motorcycles and stuff running around. So like this was it's in the early 20s, like around 1910, like pre World War One. I'm
Yeah, that sort
thinking.
of time. So it's kind of like Edwardian. So as you say, Miller rides a motorbike, and he's got a gun. He's got a pistol. Actually, he's got a rifle. Actually, so yeah,
Mhm.
it's like an alternate version of the 1920s. So it's like an alternate version of Edwardian London. So that's where the steampunk stuff comes in, because there's a big battle at the end of Volume Two. We have zeppelins and biplanes, and
Zeppelins,
it's going to be a very
nice.
grand battle. So it's going to be it's a great epic end to the story.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. The Zeppelins and everything, bringing that in.
Thank
Sounds like
you.
that'd be a good
Well, I
action
thought it'd be fun.
sequence. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Uh,
And
the Miller character. I'm not
Yes.
as Johnny's a lot more familiar with the Sherlock Holmes mythos than I am.
Yes.
I've just got a
Yes.
vague understanding of it and history of it. The Miller character, is that something that you've introduced into it? New? It's a new introduction. Like it's a character that you're bringing into the whole lore of Sherlock
Yes,
Holmes.
yeah, yeah.
Or
Actually,
yeah.
he is brand new. I mean, basically, in Regency London, there was a gang called the Mohawks, who
Hmm.
went around causing all kinds of mayhem, and so he's kind of like the last of the Mohawks. So he's basically a rebel. So that's why I thought it'd be cool to give him a motorbike, and he's got like
Hmm.
a group. You meet his group in the second book, so he has a group of people that help him out.
Hmm.
And Miller obviously it's a nod to Frank Miller in a slightly sort of roundabout way, but he's brand new for the book. I mean, Six, who is the Gurkha agent who kind of switches sides, he also is brand new. I mean, there aren't tons of other Holmes characters. I mean, Mosley was a real historical figure.
Hmm.
We don't have Mycroft in this either. So I mean, I guess it is just Holmes. I thought it might be quite nice, because it would make him feel a bit more isolated as a figure, if he's not surrounded by the familiar and the comfortable that we've seen, in the other stories like Inspector Lestrade, or any of the other regular characters that people are familiar with. I mean, the third book, we might be looking at bringing in, as I said, a major Conan Doyle adversary back. into that story, but I'm finalising at the moment. But he's a very cool character, and he is a villain. He's not Moriarty, but there's another sort of adversary for Holmes who people are familiar with if they read the excuse me, if they read the short stories and the books. But I just thought it'd be quite nice to surround him with the unfamiliar, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So the Kickstarter's going very well, man. Like you, off air, you kind of said that it's gone steady too. Unlike a lot of people who have
Yeah, it
that
has.
like
It's amazing.
mid campaign slump, you've had people every day coming in, right?
Yes, which is amazing. As I said, this is the 10th campaign that we've run. I think we've done something like, we've done 6 on Kickstarter, we've done 2 on Zoop and 2 on Indiegogo, but this is the first campaign where something's come in every single day, which is amazing. It's just, I'm very, very pleased because, as you say, there's normally like a mid campaign slump where nothing happens and you just have to ride it out. Basically, you have to sit there and wait for it to pick up again, but we haven't had that, which is really interesting because I think there was a good momentum that we built up thanks to the first book, because everybody liked the first book. So when we launched the second, I think people were ready, and there's some people who didn't quite chip in on the first one because they didn't know. It's understandable, but because we're more of a known quantity now, I think it's a little bit easier to fund the second book. And we're also offering a paperback this time for the first time, which we never did, and it's good because not everyone wants a hardcover, and it's quite nice to have a couple of different formats for people to choose from, basically.
Cool. So Johnny just posted the link for the Kickstarter campaign. So anyone who is watching or catches this on the replay, you can click that link to go back to Kickstarter. I believe you have 4 days left to the campaign.
Yes, it ends on Friday at lunchtime, at sort of like, well, at lunchtime our time, at sort of just before 2 p.m. GMT time. So we've still got, and I know that campaigns can really pick up extra speed and extra momentum in like the last couple of days. I'm hoping that people who've been kind of, waiting to see, I'm hoping that they might jump in because, as well as the books, we've also got these amazing add-ons. We've got prints from people like George Pratt, Tom Coker, John K. Snyder III, a really nice Andy Bennett page. The page when he goes to score drugs in the first book in Limehouse, we have that without the lettering, and it's a really nice image. In fact, Andy Bennett has put that aside, the original page, for me, because I intend to grab it off him and frame it because it's such a beautiful page. But we have all these really cool. There we go. That's the one. I just think it's a fantastic.
Yeah, there are some beautiful pages. Also, when he goes to the
Oh, the Houses of Parliament to visit Mosley. Yeah, that's another. I mean, and I'm sure Andy must curse me sometimes because he puts a lot of detail into these things. Like things like the Webley. The Webley is a pistol that the First World War British officers used, and I gave Miller one of those, so he had to find some reference for that. And the bike is kind of like an Enfield, which is a British motorbike. But I said you can play with it a bit because obviously this is a alternate world, so it doesn't have to adhere directly, to what our stuff looks like. And things like the church, where in the short story Prey, which is weaved into the first book, when the guy goes to kill him, there's a ruined church. I can't remember called. I think it's called Whitefriars. I can't remember what it's called. It's near St Paul's anyway. But that was bombed during the Second World War. But there is no Second World War in this story as yet, so it's a complete church. So I had to find some images for Andy to use for reference for that. But I like stuff like that. I like London history. I've always been interested in it.
Yeah.
And I like to weave in, certain things. Like the second book's got Hampton Court, using it as a prison for quite a prominent figure in the second book, which again is completely different history. Might be fun if we subvert it, because the other thing that's been quite a big emphasis on this is actually things like the Three Musketeers, kind of like a broad adventure story, because there are elements of that, because I'm a big fan. I like the Richard Lester films, and I really enjoyed the two French versions recently, so I love that. And I love things like the Scarlet Pimpernel and things like the Shadow. So I hope that Holmes has the flavor of all of these stories, because these are all things that I enjoy, because I guess I've tried to make this the kind of story that I would buy if I wasn't writing it, which I think is probably a good approach, So I've tried to make it fun. And the second book is a little bit funnier than this. It's darkly funny, but there are moments of humour, So I've tried to mix it up a little bit with the second volume. So,
and as I was reading it, there was little elements, like you said, the landmarks, the history, which made me think of Alan Moore's From Hell, like how you go into those details with the landmarks, and it tells a little bit of the history of the place that you're in, right? And
Yes.
but yours has more action, more adventure. So if people are looking for something that's a little more action packed, then that definitely is something that your book has one up on the From Hell. But I saw the parallels that you really take care about the environments that they're in, the landmarks and everything.
Yes.
And that's really cool. And for people that love that historical part of it, they'll get a nice little treat from the details that
I mean, I think it's important to get these things right, because they add a bit of extra flavor. I mean, I watched I got the Pennyworth series, which was, it was kind of, I interviewed the two showrunners, and they said that it's effectively like what if it was in like our London, but if someone had stepped off the pavement and gone in a slightly different direction. And obviously that also that plays with history, and it plays with, the setting. And I thought that was a really interesting take on things, that, this is our world, but it's our world taking a slightly different turn. I mean, the other things that this is influenced by definitely are Brian Talbot's Luther Arkwright, although it's nowhere near as outlandish as that. I mean, it's a bit more grounded in reality, and also Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion series, because he likes to play with history as well. So, I would be remiss if I didn't mention both of those. And I was I'm very pleased that I managed to get quotes from both of them, because I know Moorcock and I know Talbot. They were very generous. They kindly gave me these two amazing quotes. So it is, it has been compared to From Hell, actually. Rob Salkowitz, who writes for Forbes, actually compared it to From Hell, and people do compare Andy's art. So it is extremely flattering, because obviously that is a high watermark as a comic series. So, the fact that we've kind of hit the ground running, it is great. It's a little bit daunting sometimes, but it is great.
For sure. Fans of that novel, graphic novel, will find a lot to enjoy in yours as well. I think there's a nice little parallel there that people can find a common threads there to enjoy that aspect of the book, for sure.
No, thank you.
And you said that the evil prime minister in this is based on actual historical character. Was he actually as big of a bastard as you write him? Was he like a megalomaniacal?
Well, I take a few liberties. He was basically it was the brown shirt, so it was basically, they were like British Nazis during. Actually, I think it was kind of before the war, so he was like a very right wing figure. I don't think he was quite. I have taken a few liberties. Like, there are some scenes, as you say, like, when he shoots the man, and he is particularly cruel. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of the kingpin in him and a little bit of Blofeld, so he is this kind of criminal mastermind. I thought it might be fun, to make the villain really over the top and just really out there. Because the book ends with a 1-to-1 battle between Holmes and him, because I was worried. I mean, I've got so many characters. I mean, one of my concerns was that people think there isn't enough Holmes in it. So I felt like the final battle has to be between Holmes and Mosley, because it is his story. But I wanted to make it quite rich, which is why I picked had so many different characters, because they all bring something different into the mix. But the final battle is between the two of them. But yeah, so Mosley is a bastard, as you say in this. He wasn't quite. I think I have taken some liberties, obviously, with him in this.
But I think you have to put a lot of players into the story, right? Because that's the whole thing about Holmes, right? He's got to get through it and figure this out, right? So you have all the players, and you got to figure out that mystery, the hidden clues, and so without all those players, there's less searching, less detective work, So
I see this as less of a detective story and more of an adventure, really. So I mean, the Doyle stuff is amazing. I don't know if it takes a particular kind of writer to create an actual mystery. I mean, there's no reason why in future stories you couldn't make it more of a straight mystery story, but I wanted something really grand here and something really epic, and something that really, as I said, plays out on a huge vista, on a very big kind of like a widescreen panoramic story, basically, which is why I wanted to include all these characters. Like, I'm introducing George V in the second story, who was obviously the king at the time, but he's not in the same place as he was here. I won't say any more because I might spoil things a little, but he's there. He's a slightly different figure, and I just thought, I love alternate history things, because it's you have so much fun with them. You pick these actual historical events. What if this was to be the case? I mean, the first book, the thing on the back says history turns on a penny. So it's about the slight changes that you make. You make one slight change, and it has a huge ripple effect on everything else. I mean, it is fascinating.
It is. Also, like speaking of spoilers, and I'm going to keep this as vague as possible. Towards
Okay.
the end of issue 1, you
Mm.
kind of kill off, or might have killed off a character that's pretty important to the folklore. Is that finality, or can we expect like a twist with that in issue
You might
2?
have to wait and see. I mean, I wanted to subvert things a bit, which is why this particular figure doesn't survive the whole of the first book, and he's obviously quite a pivotal figure. I don't know. I mean, they may return in future stories possibly, but he's not going to be coming back at the end of. He won't, in volume 2, you won't see his return, but you might see his return in a later story possibly. As I just wanted to subvert things a bit because he is a very important figure, and I thought it might be fun. I've had a couple of people who weren't happy that this person doesn't. I have a friend of mine who's a big Sherlock Holmes fan who actually she wasn't happy that this person, this thing happens to them. But
Yeah.
I'm glad about that because I want to try and generate a bit of debate. I mean, that's the whole point of this. You want people to
Mhm.
talk about your work, even if they don't necessarily agree with what you've done. I like the fact that I want a reaction. I want people to react to my work.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this. I want people to engage with your work, with your story, and I think it was a hard scene to write. I mean, when I got to that point, I thought I've got to make this. It's got to be emotional, and it's got to work within the confines of the story, and it has to engage with the reader. So I did that towards the end of this. I wrote it chronologically, so I did write that towards the end of the script for the
Mhm.
first book. So I'm pleased I've done it. I mean, I'm trying not to go back too much because you're always worried that you're not happy
Yeah.
with your older work. You think, shit, that doesn't work, and I
But
wish this was better. But it is the way it is. I mean, there is a slight flaw which we are going to try and fix. There is a timeline flaw which we're going to try and fix for the second printing of the first book, which actually contradicts certain events and what a retailer friend of mine pointed it out. So we're going to try and fix that because the shorts were written independently, and then we weave them in, and then we didn't realize that this was here, that this actually happened. So it's not the end of the world. It can be fixed. We're going to have to basically create some new dialogue in one of the shorts. But I mean, no one else has noticed it, but I may still try and see if I can fix that.
yeah.
Cool. But like I said, it's very ambitious, but I think that you need to do that to do something fresh with Sherlock Holmes. You know what I mean? Like
Yes,
he is
yes,
such a character that's traveled, and I can't even count how many films and
no,
books and different interpretations there's been. So like you got to keep people on their toes, and I think that was a nice stinger. You know what I
well,
mean?
thank
I
you. No,
really
I
did.
appreciate that. I wanted to surprise people. I wanted to wrong foot them. That the best drama is when you have characters that you're invested in who don't make it. Like for example, and I stopped watching The Walking Dead because I got quite bored with it. But I thought Shane was the best character in that show because he was such a horrible individual. He's a
Yeah,
complete bastard. But I thought interesting. But seeing characters get killed. I mean, Game of Thrones did that. Sopranos did that. So these are characters that you invest in, that you kind of like or that you connect with, and then they get killed. And I think that's essential for good drama. And I guess it's the same approach, for comics, for good comics, that there
Hmm.
are characters that you invest your emotion in, and then something happens to them,
Yeah.
out of the blue.
Yeah. Or allude to it happening, right? Like Johnny
Yeah.
says, like
Well,
who
yes.
knows? Like he's
Maybe.
like because it happens near the end of the first volume, so you're not sure. Is this for real?
Yes.
Is this?
Yes.
So then
Yes.
you're left like, my God. So that gives that like leaves a little cliffhanger for the second volume where you're like, okay, because they're crafty, right?
Yes.
So they're always
Yes.
up to
Yeah. Yeah.
like
No. I
these
mean, it
tricks
was
and
it
stuff.
was
So you're
deliberate
like,
because I wanted. Yes.
yeah. So
I
you
wanted to make
wonder,
people buy
yeah,
the second book, obviously. So I wanted to
yeah,
leave it on a cliffhanger so that things were perched quite precariously,
yeah,
and then people hopefully wanted to read on. And I wanted to end it with a really dramatic conclusion.
yeah,
And I
and that
thought it
definitely
has to be
carries
towards the end of the
weight.
book.
It definitely carries weight too because of the character. So it definitely has a lot of weight to it, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so, yeah, very well done. We'll see. We'll
Thank
see.
you.
Like you said, if you bring that character, if he's going to be back in future volumes, and the way this thing has been selling, I mean,
Yes.
well,
Yes.
or backing or backers, I mean,
Yes.
so you're probably gonna, like you said, you have another something planned for after this one as well, right?
Yes, I do. As I said, it's within the existing Doyle villain, which I'm kind of as I said, the first story doesn't have the other sort of dramatic players that you have in the other Holmes stories, but this one, he's a really cool character, and as I said, he's one of Holmes's most interesting villains. So I think it would make for kind of a very action. I mean, I do things in quite a cinematic fashion. I mean, the first book where you've got the opener with with the assassin
Hmm.
when he's shooting there. I wanted to throw people into the action. I didn't want them to necessarily, start with like a staid kind of home scene. I wanted something different,
Hmm.
and I wanted
Yeah.
people to go, "What the hell is this?" So that's why, and I think very cinematically. I mean, that was almost kind of like a Day of the Jackal, or a very kind of cinematic approach to action. And
Hmm.
in the second book, there's a lot of action sequences that kind of back to back. So I've had to think very carefully when I've been scripting those because like one thing happens, and as a response to that, something else happens, and I don't want it to be too. It has to flow. You got to think about the narrative flow. So I do look at cinema quite a bit, but it's still a comic. I mean, I want to make sure this is still, because you have comics occasionally that come out and they just feel like they're there just to sell it to Netflix or television. But this
Hmm.
is a comic. I mean, this I would love to see this, on TV or something. But it is a comic story, and it plays to all of the strengths. I hope, of the
Yeah.
comic format. You know.
Cool. I noticed in the back, I read after the story, you have the back matter, like thanking people and stuff.
Yes.
And I noticed that you thanked the Mad Caves Studios for in your first volume. Do you have a deal with them to do the like
Uh,
a published American release? Like, is the Tripwire Publishing strictly a UK thing, or do you guys publish here in North America as well?
Well, we do it. We do it internationally. I mean, we offered it through Luna and Diamond. We're going to be offering the regular version of the hardback and the paperback through Diamond and Luna. But no, Mad Cave have just been very supportive. I mean, we have talked about possibilities for publishing, but it hasn't quite worked out as yet. We're hopeful, but they've just been very supportive of us. They've
Okay.
helped us.
Okay.
I mean, they've supported our campaigns, quite
Okay.
significantly, and they've been brilliant. We've been covering their stuff, so I get on well. I mean, Mark Irwin was my editor on this Masters of Comics book that I did through Insight in 2019. And I've known Mike Martz for a few years since he used to work for, I guess it was either Valiant or Marvel. So they've just been very helpful. So it's possible. I haven't quite to a kind of a conclusion with that yet, but
Yeah.
possibly we might. I mean, we're talking about doing a collection of the two stories together in a paperback, and that might come out from them. I mean, that's not definite.
Yeah.
It's in kind of early discussion stages, but it's possible. We haven't quite come to a kind of conclusion yet with stuff,
Mhm.
but it could happen. They've just been very helpful. They have been, very helpful to us.
Cool. Yeah, I just noticed that at the end as I was reading through, so I was like, oh, maybe there's something going on there that hasn't been announced yet, or yeah, cool.
Watch this space. It's possible. It's not definite, but it is. There might be something.
Hmm. Hmm. Very cool. Mm.
Another thing I think that really makes this book exciting is that there's kind of like three sides to this fight. Usually it's like Holmes versus a villain by himself, but you kind of got
Yes.
Miller and his people too, which the bad guy thinks that they are working with Holmes, but they're actually not. They might
Mhm.
team up in the future, but
Yes.
at this point they're all at different odds with each other. So that's really interesting.
Well,
Like
thank you. No, I thought that would mix things up a bit and make it a bit more interesting. As you say, having the different sides, so it's not just, as you say, Holmes versus the single adversary.
Yeah, and that story at the end, the short story that you did to
Yes.
elaborate on Miller's uh,
Yes.
his joining the Mohawks and stuff like that is
Yes.
it was good. I loved it. I
Thank
love
you.
the way
I'm
and
planning. I'm planning another pro short. I don't know what yet, but I'm planning another one because I just thought people like extra stuff. That's why we got Andy Bennett's
mhm,
pencils, and I might run some script pages in the second book. People like extras because I think it gives people extra context
mhm.
for stories that they're reading or things they're watching. And it doesn't like the extras on things like DVDs or Blu-rays. So I enjoyed writing that, and again, it's quite tight. It was a short story, and it was in prose, so it was fun to write, and it was good to flesh out his character. You know,
Exactly. It just adds another layer to the character, so you understand his motives a little better and
so there will be
everything.
something similar in the second book. I haven't decided what
Mhm.
yet, but there will be another prose short because I enjoyed writing it. So there'll be another character. I don't know who yet. I mean, it could just be a Holmes short. I don't know. I mean, that kind of lends itself quite well, so we'll see. But there will
Is
be another prose short.
Yeah. But with that, like the introduction of Miller and the Mohawks, is that something that you would think of doing a series just on that group, like write a comic of them with a solo, like not within the Sherlock Holmes mythos, but just more like that group as its own entity without the influence of Sherlock Holmes?
Well, it's possible. I mean, this is a character that I've created. As I said, the Mohawks, they were real historical figures, they were almost like a biker gang, but they were regencies. They were, proto biker gangs because they were
Mm-hmm.
much earlier. I mean, I guess that could work. I mean, you take it out. I mean, there's no reason why not. I mean, I've created quite a broad canvas, so it is possible that
Yeah,
we could take him out, and then you could just have just the adventures of him because he is an interesting character because he's very
he is.
flawed.
Mm-hmm.
And he is. You're not sure if he's a little bit of an anti-hero, I guess, because he helps, but he's helping, but there's something. Well,
Yeah,
he kind of works outside the law, so
yeah, yeah.
he's an outlaw basically. So
Mhm. Yeah, you touch on that a little bit in that prose story.
yes,
Kind of, yeah, that whole society and the club and everything. Yeah.
I
So
mean, they
I mean,
had
you could.
supposedly the Mohawks. Their initiation was they were supposed to kill people, or they were supposed to do something really unpleasant. I've been reading up about them that they had to do
Mhm,
something horrible, for their initiation into the gang. And
mhm,
I thought that might be a fun detail to include in the short.
mhm. Yeah, and you could always do like a prequel leading into
Yes, oh no,
where
definitely.
yeah, exactly that. Like it doesn't have the like you said, it's so broad. It could be focused more on the gang than Miller himself.
Yes.
Uh, so yeah, you have so many avenues you can go
Oh, I
down
know
with that.
it is
It's
exciting,
fantastic.
but it is a bit scary at the same time because you have to try and focus. You have to try and plan, kind of forward plan. But no, I mean, I've been very pleased. The reception's been, we got a Guillermo del Toro quote this time. We got an Ian Rankin quote as well,
Mm,
and it's just everybody's really, I'm very pleased. That response has been phenomenal, and even in the campaign, we've had people chip in. We've had Jem Damasis chip in, and David Mandel, who used to work on Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Mark Verheiden used to work, at Dark Horse. And we've had some, pretty impressive industry people actually chip into the campaign, which is amazing. And I feel very flattered that these people actually enjoy our work. And Loeb was amazing as well. That we got a great quote from him, and
mm,
I feel very lucky that we have the support of people in the industry.
very good. That's awesome. Uh, I don't know if you want to touch on working at the magazine at all.
Yes,
I
of
mean,
course. I'm more than happy. What would
yeah.
you like to know?
Well, because Tripwire is definitely like I was talking to Johnny, and I was like, it kind of reflects a little bit, kind of like what we do here on our channel. We like
Yes,
to talk about music, shows, movies. Our main focus is comics, but we
yes,
do touch a little bit on everything. And I was like, man, it's nice to have Joel coming on, and he works kind of within a similar format, but magazine instead of like just a channel, a YouTube channel. And
yes,
I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, what do you guys like? Like now you're doing the comic. You've come out with this comic. Your Sherlock Holmes
yes,
story is
yes,
published by Tripwire.
yes.
What else do you do a lot of comic interviews? I've seen as well with creators and stuff like that.
Yes.
Hmm. And
Yeah, we have. The magazine started as a very primitive fanzine in 1992, and then as the years progressed, we used to have music in it. There used to be comics and music, but we kind of parted. I parted ways with the music guy, and then we brought in film and TV, which was a better fit. And
okay,
so we covered, movies and TV over the years, and we had a break because we were finding it very hard to get advertising. So we switched to the web in 2015. But I missed doing a print magazine. So in
mm,
2020, like the heart of COVID, basically, we
hmm,
decided to bring the magazine back, and it took we put it back 6 months because it was a nightmare. It was the strangest time in my life because we were doing interviews, but nobody knew what was going on. We didn't know what was going to happen after, or so we put the first issue out in 2020, the first comeback, which had a Flash cover and also a James Bond cover. We did
okay,
a thing about we previewed the Bond film, which obviously got put back 3 times, but we did a history of Bond, history of Craig's Bond, and um,
mm,
so no, I've always enjoyed doing it, and I designed the mag, and I've been designing the magazine for years. So we've done things that we interviewed Drew Struzan, the famous movie poster artist, and interviewed Del Toro a few times, and Loads of people. Matt Groening, when Futurama came back, I think for the
Okay.
second time, we interviewed
Yeah.
him, and David Cohen, which was fantastic. So we have a huge archive. We got Miller when Dark Knight Strikes Again came out. I used to go and see Alan Moore. I haven't seen him in ages. I went to go and visit him in Northampton, so I interviewed him and Mignola, and so we have a huge archive going back to 1992. And like this year, we did this photo book. Of my photographs going back to the early 90s. So had everyone from like Simon Bisley to Del Toro to Andy Serkis to Dave Gibbons to like 100. I think it was about, I can't remember how many people it was. I think it was about 60 subjects or something. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, the next issue is the Daredevil at 60 special. So we got that. So we're looking back at the character, and we've also got sidebar interviews with Brian Bendis and David Mack and Anne Senti and Mark Wade. And we got a thing about New Worlds, which was the old British sci-fi magazine, because it's 60 years of that. So we got a piece about the history of that. Interviewed Ramsey Campbell, who's a British horror writer. We got a thing called On the Shelf, where we review graphic novels. A thing called Real Life, where our writer Stephen Dalton has written for sort of The Guardian and for Enemy. He reviews movies, like streaming movies and cinema films, and so it's another very packed issue. And we do indie spotlights as well. We did a thing on Fabrice Sobolski and Fair Square, so we do US indie publishers, and we interviewed Metafrog, who are a Scottish indie comic. It's a husband and wife, and they've been working together for years. So we like
Okay.
to mix it up. We like to have a
Yeah.
range of different things. So we do the
Nice.
mainstream, but we also do like left of center. I mean, when we started, we used to cover a lot of Vertigo stuff when no one
Mhm.
else really would, because it was handy because they were based over here, the creators.
Okay.
So it's comics, TV. Also, we do cover illustration. Like we interviewed Robert McGuinness, who did he did the James Bond movie posters, and he did the Breakfast at Tiffany's, because I like illustration as well. So we're a little
Mhm.
bit broader than, we're not just a comic mag.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
cover
Yeah.
that as well. So we cover a wide range, as you saw from the sample issues that I sent you.
Mhm. And yeah, is that a monthly, quarterly, or?
It's quarterly. Well, it's 3 times a year, so it's sort of
Yeah.
quarterly-ish,
Yeah. Okay.
basically.
Yeah. And you're still doing print every quarter, roughly? It's still print,
Yes,
or are
yeah, yeah,
you okay?
yeah. The next one will be out in January, and then because the last issue we did was the Sean Phillips one. We interviewed Sean Phillips and Ed Brubaker because they've been working together for 25 years. So we did a big interview with both of them, and then the
Mhm.
previous issue was 60 years of Doctor Who. So we did a look back at the Doctor Who series and like a preview forward. And then we did Indiana Jones last year, and we did Sandman because it was the anniversary of Sandman last year. So
Mhm.
because we did 3 1-shots and they seemed to go well, so we decided to up our frequency back to quarterly, and we did an anniversary book with heavy metal, which wasn't the greatest experience, unfortunately, but it's still a book I'm very proud of in 2022.
Yeah.
So that was our 30th anniversary. So we did a big 324-page paperback and hardcover.
Mhm.
Um,
And yeah,
yeah, there we
and
go. That's the one. Yes.
do you still have a strip in it, a comic strip,
Yeah,
or?
we have this Tripwire section at the back, so we run
Yeah.
strip material. Like this time we're previewing some home stuff, and my friend John Charles has a thing called Techno Freak, which is like a sci-fi, like a British sci-fi, almost kind of like old school 2000 AD. So we do run. We have a strip section that we run every single issue, and it's at least sort of 12 to 16 pages. It's kind of fun because I like having
Yeah.
strips in the mag. It's
Yeah.
quite nice to
Yeah.
have it
Yeah.
at the back to kind of end the issue. So yeah, we always run. We run that for years actually,
Cool.
and it's
Nice.
fun to have it as part of the package.
Yeah, because I mean that's this Sherlock Holmes book. I mean, Tripwire is one of the big reasons why you're able to get this off the ground eventually, right?
Oh,
With the
totally. And
help.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. It helps a lot. I mean, the respect that we've had from decades of doing the magazine meant I was able to talk to the people who kindly gave us, the covers and the pin-ups. So I was very lucky, that I was able to call on these people, and they've been incredibly generous with their time, and
Mhm.
they've created these amazing pieces. That's the Sean Marstonborough piece he did for the first book, and that's the Walt Simonson cover. So yeah, I'm very, it opened a lot of doors,
Yeah.
and also I think it meant that people took us seriously. And now we've done one, I think there's more credibility with the second book now
Mhm.
because we've done the first one. Because anyone can do the first book. Well, it's not that easy, but you do one book, but like some people. And I'm not casting aspersions because like Mage is amazing, but there was like 20 years between the first and the second book because obviously Matt Wagner went off to do other things. But it's quite
Mhm.
nice that we can do something quite quickly, that we can finish the story
Yeah.
quite quickly, between the 2 volumes, and it shows that we are serious about this, and we want to make sure that people who've supported us, they're able to finish. If they enjoyed the first volume, they're able to pick up the second one quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other
So
strips that are in the Tripwire magazine that aren't yours, not the Sherlock Holmes, but let's say the other ones like you mentioned. Is there plans in the
yes.
future to do an anthology, a collected edition through of their work, or is that going to be independent? It's up to those
Well,
creators to.
Uh, possibly. I have thought about it. I mean, we are
Mhm.
expanding. We're actually about to we're about to launch an Art of George Pratt book in January. So we're basically going to be launching a range of art of books. So the George Pratt one will be the first. I haven't mentioned it publicly so far, but I've been going through images with him, and it's going to be really nice because the trip. I just thought it's the next step. Basically, it makes sense
Mhm.
because we've done the two graphic novels, and you know
Yeah.
and we're picking artists who we get on with, who we have a connection with. So we thought it would be nice because there isn't an Art of George Pratt book. There are books that cover certain aspects of his career, but there isn't an overarching one which covers his entire career. So I thought it'd be nice. And so there's him, and then we're talking to a number of other artists. So, but I
Cool.
mean, yeah, the comic anthology thing is something I've thought about, which we might consider possibly. We're just trying to work out our schedule basically, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah. Well, that's cool because because it's shorter strips within the magazine, right? So
Yes, oh, it
once
is.
the
They're
stories
short.
are
It's 6 to 8
complete, collecting
pages.
them all into one volume is
Yeah, no, it
always
makes sense. It does make.
a treat for readers. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like that. That's
Thank you.
fun. Yeah. Yeah. Johnny.
Yeah. So, we were talking off air, it's a kind of small team that makes this magazine. So it's really impressive how bulky the issues are. You know what I mean? Like you guys really
Yes,
put a lot into it. You said that there's slightly more people that than are credited in most issues, but like it's a pretty small group of you guys, right?
it
So
is. I mean, there are people who write for us, but in terms of design and editing, it's myself and my colleague, senior editor Andrew Coleman, who does quite a lot of editorial work on it as well. It is a small team. I mean, when we 244-page issues, which were monsters. But we slimmed it down a bit because 100 pages is a bit more practical to put out with a small team. And I admit, the Tripwire section. Another reason why I like it, if I'm honest, is it's quite easy to design because I just slap them into the pages at the back of the issue. It's nice to have them, but it also means it's easy. So we get like a 16-page chunk of the mag, which we know is just going to come in, ready to go, which is lettered and drawn, and we just put it on the page.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, like it's a perfect nerd magazine, though, man. I'm kind of sad that I just now discovered it. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
never run across it on the stands, but like it really does encapsulate a lot of stuff that I'm
Yeah, I mean,
interested in.
the Sandman issue, we did a piece about Jason the Argonauts because it was 60 years. We got quotes. That was the one there. So we got quotes from Del Toro and Richard Taylor, and that same issue had had a Akira Kurosawa article and the piece about Lone Wolf and Cub, about the TV show and the films and the comic, because we do stuff that's a bit different. We don't always want to cover that. We cover stuff that no one else covers, to be honest, in the way that we cover it. And we always have, because I like the variety. I like the fact that we have a range of different subjects. Like the Robert McGuinness interview, I was pleased with that. We ran it, was from one of our archives, but no one else would do that. None of the other comic people would cover, because I'm interested in illustration, because I think it's all connected. I think that illustration,
Mhm.
George Pratt he trained in illustration, even though his stuff has elements of fine art, and obviously he's done comic work. He does come from an illustration tradition as well. And you look at people like Alex Ross, they're influenced by people like J.C. Leyendecker and the Cornwalls, and so there is a connection here, and I think it's fascinating. And I do like illustration,
Well, there is a
and I like to
connection there.
cover it.
There is covers, right? It's become an art
Yes,
form.
well,
Just the
exactly.
cover. The
Oh,
comic cover
totally.
is
Yes.
exactly. It's like a poster. It's like a movie poster. It's an
Yes, well, it's the
illustration.
thing that kind of leads you in. A good
Hmm.
cover, a good comic cover. You have a range of choices. It can either be abstract, or we can actually
Hmm.
have with a specific scene, in the comic or the graphic novel. But front, if the cover does its job, it will get some of the finest cover artists. We've
Hmm.
got Panosian, obviously, he's one of the finest cover artists at the moment. But you've got people like Dave Johnson and Tim Bradstreet, and people do these amazing covers that really draw people in.
Hmm.
So it's a real art to create a great comic cover, and
Yeah,
it is,
for
and
sure.
it does feed into illustration. I mean, you look at something like Human Target, like Greg Smallwood's work. You can definitely see illustration in that. You look at those covers, And again, they are single images. They're quite striking and they're quite simple, but they'll, you know, if they do their job, they'll draw you in as a reader.
Mhm.
Yeah, as some people like that's why they buy comics. I know quite a few people that like just get the covers. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
for the
don't even
Oh,
cover.
really?
yeah,
Interesting.
which is
That is
kind of
interesting.
sad in my opinion, but
A
it
little
is
bit, true.
yeah. But it has become kind of like its own source of collecting in
Oh,
its own right
totally.
in this new age of comics that collecting.
I mean, that's why we wanted to make sure our covers were striking, like the Chirello cover for the first one. You know, that's visually very strong, and we wanted to make them very different. You know, the two different covers, we wanted to be different. So the Walt Simonson one is very different, and then the two latest ones, like the Fraser Irving and the Panosian, even though they're both kind of got green in them, they're two very different images.
Mhm.
So there's that one, which is a
Beautiful.
very haunting, and that one is as well. There is a thematic connection, but you know they're very different.
Right.
That one, that second one, I love that. The first Grendel story I ever read was the Batman and Grendel, and it's got the same color, the color palette and
Yes,
layout a little
yes,
bit.
I
Yeah,
remember that. It was
yeah,
like black and green. Yes.
yeah, exactly. So it definitely brought me back to my childhood when I was a kid and read that
Yeah.
first Grendel
No, I remember
story.
that book.
Yeah,
That was a great book.
great art in it too. Wagner did fantastic in
Yeah, he's
that.
amazing. He's an incredibly talented man.
A quick question.
Yes, of course.
If people wanted to get their hands on Tripwire, what are their options? How can people subscribe to the magazine?
Well, we do offer subscription. I mean, if people want to message me direct, we do offer subscriptions to people, and it's also available. It is offered through previews for Diamond, and it's also offered through Luna as well. I mean, Luna has
Okay.
a web presence, and if they search for Tripwire, they'll find the magazine, so they can order it from their local comic shop. You know,
Okay.
as like a standing order, or if they want to put in like a special order. But as I said, if people want to contact me, I can also offer. We do offer subscriptions direct to people if they want to grab. I have a big cartel as well, which I can't remember the exact URL, but I can find that. And we offer issues on that too. So we try and make it as easy as possible. And we're also on Readly for digital as well. So if people have a subscription to that.
Okay. So they can get the physical, digital. They have all the
All the
options
options,
available to
yes,
them.
precisely,
Yeah.
they do. So it's make it as
Nice.
easy as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And reading it digitally, it was a lot easier and funner than I thought it would be. I thought like reading like an actual magazine
Oh,
on the
good.
computer would be a little and I dig it, man. Like
Hmm,
it took me kind of back. I haven't actually
sure.
like read a magazine in
Hmm,
a while. But
yes.
and like you said, with the Lone Wolf and Cub thing, you guys touched on all three formats.
Well, we
Usually,
have to, because I just think it's interesting. I want to make sure that we get things right and that we are, you know, is that we can, you know, the articles are complete, so we give people a good grounding in terms of knowledge of this stuff. Because there's no point. You know, the thing about features is that there is an element of authority that we're saying to people. This is, you know, you should trust us because we know what we're talking about. So I wanted to make sure, you know, that was correct, that it was thorough, that we did cover all the bases basically, which I thought was important.
yeah, and it is because like most of the time when people do cover it, they'll cover either the movies or the comic books, and they might lightly touch on the like, oh, there was other media for it, but they
Yes.
won't go into the detail you guys did,
No,
which
I think
is
it's
great.
important because it's adding context. It's giving context to stuff which some people don't, you know, whatever reason. Sometimes it's just or some, you know, other reasons. But I think it's important to do that, to offer context to people.
Yeah, it's very much appreciated.
Yeah. Very cool. Do you? What are your numbers like for your subscriptions? Like,
They're
I,
decent. I mean, they're steady. I mean, we don't promote it that much, but
yeah,
we do have a few regular subscribers. So
yeah,
we have loyal readers, you know, for that. We have
yeah,
loyal supporters for our different campaigns as well, which is nice. There are people that come back, you know,
yeah,
which is nice because we do offer something different
yeah.
to what else is. There isn't that much else out there, to be honest,
No,
these
like
days in
Johnny
terms of
said,
like a print
yeah.
mag. There aren't many.
Mm-hmm. And you're offering it everywhere, right? Like you said, in the
Yes,
Diamond Lunar, so you're
well,
making it
exactly.
readily available to
Oh
people.
yes,
So,
totally. So anybody, if they go to their local comic shop, you know, they
yeah,
can order it because we're trying to cover all the bases because that covers, you know, because some people use either one or the other. So it gives people the option to make it quite easy to order.
yeah, and like you said, like the content inside, like Johnny was saying, is great. The articles are great. The photography is fantastic. you see a lot of the pictures of
Yes, thank you. Yes,
like it's an like top notch. Like I
thank
mean,
you. Yeah, I mean, it's designed to be a quality magazine.
mhm.
We try and make sure that it is of a certain level. That's important. I think that's why people come back to keep buying it, because it is of a certain quality in terms of its production values.
Great name too, Tripwire.
Thank you. I
Fan-
didn't want it to have anything to do with comics all those years ago, so that's where I came up with it. And the logo has changed, but this
yeah.
logo is the one I've used, which I designed. I've used it since, because we came back. We did these once a year annuals in 2007, I think. I think that I can't remember. We did it. We did this thing where we did kind of like pastiches of comic covers and things, and we did different logo. We did one with like a Hellboy pastiche, but it didn't
Okay.
work because in terms of branding, you want to have a consistent logo each
Mhm.
time. So that's
Yeah.
important. So that's why we've gone back to using the same logo each time for an issue out.
Cool. Yeah, and that's why we named our show what we named it, because much
Mm.
like you, because we love comics, but like it's not
Mhm.
all we want to talk about. You know
Well,
what I
no,
mean?
exactly. So we wanted to be a bit broader than that, so it wouldn't put people off who like, they like comics, but they like other things. So
Mhm.
we thought it would be good to have something kind of a little bit abstract and a little
Yeah.
bit different.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You get a lot of like nerd this or nerd that, or geek
Yeah, I
this or
know.
geek
We
that.
we didn't want to do that. We wanted it to be
Yeah.
a bit more upmarket than that, to be honest. And that's
Yeah.
why we didn't use that. And I think it's paid off. It is it's a name, that sounds a bit edgy as well, I guess. So
Yeah, that's Tripwire. Like I said, it rolls off the
yes.
tongue well, and people know
Sounds like
what
a punk
happens.
band.
Yeah,
Sounds like a
Yeah,
punk
exactly.
band.
Or a
exactly.
Yeah.
hardcore
Yeah.
band, or yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, exactly.
And
So I think
you know what
that's what's
happens with
helped it.
what happens with the Tripwire too. So
Things blow up. So
yeah,
exactly.
shit happens.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it's worked. It's worked for
Yeah,
32 years for us. I think we'll
that's a
stick with it now.
that's a fantastic run, 30 some odd years. So congratulations on that.
Thank
I
you. I mean,
mean,
there was a little bit of a break. Thank you. There was a slight break. There
well,
was a break for a few years.
but you survived, right? Because I mean, how
Yes. No,
many
we did.
how many print didn't survive that whole digital
Oh, I know.
changeover, right? Adapt, what is it?
Yes.
Adapt or die
Or
or
die.
whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
exactly.
exactly.
So,
So we
mhm,
have adapted, and I'm very proud. And sometimes I forget the stuff we put in the issue. So I do look back at old issues just for the hell of it. I have a shelf of all the stuff
mhm,
that I've done over the years. I did the two studio books, the Studio Space book that came out from Image in 2008, and then the Masters of Comics. And then I've got the two Holmes. Well, there'll be two Holmes books now, and then there's the face-to-face photo book, and it's quite nice. It's become quite a big shelf now of different bits and pieces that I've done
mhm.
over the years, which is really nice to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Because it makes me think also Tripwire, kind of a little bit like what was that one from Dark Horse? Was it Deadline? Was kind
Uh,
of a magazine format. It was a comic, but more in a magazine format where they had interviews with bands in them and
well,
stuff like that.
Deadline was the one that had Tank Girl. That was the British
Yeah,
mag, actually.
yeah.
But maybe I think Dark Horse did do like a US
Well,
format.
they
There's like
they did the
4 issues, I
U.S.
think.
release of it. Yeah, I think
Yes,
Dark Horse
that's
printed it
right.
for the U.S. Yeah,
Yes, I remember that. So
yeah.
yeah,
So
it's a little bit like
Tripwire,
that. Yes,
yeah, it makes me think of that, but maybe on a higher end scale, right?
yes, yes,
Because
yes.
yeah. So it brings me back. Like it definitely has
Cool.
that throwback feel to it.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
mhm, yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. Can we go back to the Sherlock Holmes book,
Yes,
the
of course,
Kickstarter, really
certainly.
fast? I was wondering, what is the
Yeah.
progress on that issue? Is it complete? Is it close to being done, or just
Oh,
for the people
what you mean
backing it?
you mean what the second book? Well, I mean
Yeah.
basically, Andy's made a start. I've written 30 pages of script, and he's drawn about. Let me get this right. He's done 5 pages of story so far, and he's lettered about 3. So we're getting there. I mean, it will be out for spring next year. We're looking to get it out for May next year, and to go into the printers into kind of April. So we're making good progress, and we're and Andy's good. He's got another job on at the moment, but when he gets finished with that, just after Christmas, he'll dive in again. So he's and the nice thing is getting pages in. Like for the first book, I'd get a batch of 3 or 4 pages in from him, and it was really exciting to see, to kind of go to sort of Dropbox and have a look and see what he'd done, this week. And it's a fantastic feeling to see this stuff come together. So I know that it'll be another amazing book, and it's going to be slightly thicker. It's going to be 120 pages. So that
Oh,
with
okay.
96 pages of story and 24 pages of back matter, so script, another short,
Yeah.
probably some more pencil pages, and the pin-ups as well. And they're also going to be as with the first book, there'll be the 2 covers without the logo. I've got Dan Panosian's piece in black and white, which is one of the add-ons as well, which
Okay.
looks amazing. I mean, you see his stuff in black and white, and you see it in color, and you think, wow. And he designed the cover for us as well. He's just an incredibly talented man.
Yeah.
And when I got that cover, I thought, wow, this is incredible. When it turned up, because I was kind of chasing him for it, because he was,
Yeah.
the man is ridiculously busy, because he seems to do like a cover a week. It seems a different cover every week, but it's a phenomenal piece, and it's so haunting as well. You look at it, and you look at the eyes, and it's really simple, but there's so much there. There's so much to it. It's a great cover because it kind of it invites you in, basically, I think. And the Fraser Irving one is good as well, because it's very haunting. Again, it's quite
Yeah.
gothic, actually. Fraser's piece, that one,
Yeah.
with the heads and things. Then the green, they're both really
Yeah.
strong in very different ways.
Mhm.
And the
Which
Big
is
Ben and the
fantastic.
fog. Yeah,
Yeah.
gorgeous.
That makes me, now that we're talking about the production of it and stuff, it's in black and white. So
Yes.
what was the decision for black and white? Did you toy with doing it in color, or was it always, we're doing this black and white from day one? That was your decision, or what was the reason for the black and white, if there is even one?
Well, I guess it was just, we did think about doing it in color, but I think it gives itself it gives it certain gravitas. I mean, you were talking about From Hell. I mean, From Hell
Yeah.
obviously was in black and white, so I guess there's an immediacy to the work that perhaps might not be there, and also it's unusual these days. Most comics are in color, so it's quite
Yes.
nice to have it in black and white and look through it. And you got the contrast between that and the color pinups at the back and the color cover. So I think it works well, and we have toyed with the idea of coloring it and releasing it, from a different publisher, which we may still do. I don't know, but
Okay.
it'd make it a very different sort of read, I think,
Yeah.
if it was color. So we might still do it, but at the moment, these books that we're doing ourselves, they'll all be in black and white.
Cool. No,
We
we
love-
love black. We love black and white. So I was just curious. It's nice to see more black and white books.
Cool. No, that's a fair question. It's a fair
And
question.
It lends to the time period too,
Yeah.
so perfectly. You know what I mean? Like it just.
Yes, well, no, exactly. So I think it does suit. It really, and that page is magnificent from the second book
is
with the
beautiful.
four. And actually, it's like a mirror to the first book when he's killing the mayor, and that was I did a very sketch. I sent him a rough sketch that was like a child's drawing, and I said we need the 4 portholes here, and he said, can you just do that to give me a better sense of what the page should look like? And he delivered. It was amazing when I got that page in from the first book, and having that in the second, there's a little bit of a mirror between that and the first, which is nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Great stuff. Like when I saw it was black and white, I was like, all right, cool. And it definitely, like Johnny says, it lends itself to the story and in the time period, especially with the architecture. Like when you get that church drawn in that black and white, it's beautiful. Like,
no, exactly. It really hits you in the face. I think if that was color, it wouldn't have the same impact, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. Yeah,
all that detail would be drowned out by the coloring. You know what I mean? Like all that great grayscale that he did there, and
Oh no, it's a wonderful page. It's beautiful. It's really, really stunning.
And I love the simplicity of the sky too. Like I don't know why, but like when people do black and white skies perfectly like that, it just kind of sings. You know what I mean? It's a lot better.
Yeah, no, it's a great page. It is a fantastic page.
We always ask creators if they have any announcements to make, something coming up in the future. I don't know if you do conventions or if you do signings or anything like that, but do you have anything lined up that you'd like to announce or share with people, or any other kind of events?
Early, but we probably will be doing a signing at Gosh in London again in the spring. We did it this year with Barry Kitson and Fraser Irving and myself. So probably round about May time in Gosh in
May.
London,
Okay.
we'll probably do another signing so people kind of watch this space. I mean, it's slightly early to announce it, but we are going to do another one because we had an amazing turnout. We had a load of people come and it was fantastic. So
Nice.
we'll definitely be doing another one in the spring next year. So if people keep their kind of eyes peeled online, there'll definitely be another signing with probably Barry Kitson and Fraser again and myself. So that was a lot of fun. I said, and we had a really good turnout. A load of people came to that. So
yeah,
awesome.
I love Fraser's art. So yeah, I was really thrilled when I saw that you had covers by him.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, his
And
colors.
Gosh is a great shop as well. You know, in London, it's in Soho. It used to be the British Museum, and they moved it to Berwick Street near the market. And it's a wonderful shop. I've been going in there for years, and they've got wonderful staff, and they're incredibly supportive of of smaller publishers as well. So it's a fantastic shop.
Yeah, awesome. Get a little plug for them.
Oh, I'm happy. Yeah, please. If people are ever in London, then they should go in. If they're comic fans, they should definitely check it out if they haven't.
Awesome.
Would you like to shout out your socials so people could follow you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Twitter, it's just Joel Meadows 1. We have a Sherlock Holmes and the Empire Builders Facebook group if they want to search. I don't know the URL, I'm afraid, but if people search on Facebook, and I'm on Blue Sky as well, so it's like joelmeadows.b. I can't remember it exactly, but
yeah, they still have the Blue Sky socials. I wish they would get rid of that. It chews up so many characters when you're trying to write something.
Oh, I know it is. It makes it quite long-winded, but yeah. So I'm on that. I'm on Instagram. There's like a Tripwire. I can't remember if it's Tripwire Mag or Tripwire Bristol. There's 2 Instagram accounts. So yeah, I'm on quite a few of these. So yeah, Facebook, if people want to look for the Sherlock Holmes and the Empire Builders, there is a group and people are welcome to join that.
Perfect.
And then there's the group as well on Facebook. So again, if people want to, and it's Joel Meadows 1 on Twitter, or X or whatever you want to call it these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really happy you reached out, man. Like,
well, thank you. No, so am I. Thank you for having me on. I'm really enjoyed, and thank you for the kind words about Holmes. It's much appreciated.
Oh, you're nailing it, man. It's really good. I was.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff you could do, and there's a lot of media, like we said, out there about him. But like, yeah, yours is very interesting and worth checking out because it's quite a bit different.
We're trying different. Exactly, we're trying something different. So.
Yeah,
and I think you're hitting the perfect time because there aren't, like, you had 2 series running for a while. You had the movies, and it's been a little more quiet on the Sherlock Holmes front.
That's true.
To media.
That is
so
true.
your book is filling that gap right now. So it's perfect for Sherlock Holmes fans.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, people, the campaign's running for the rest of like the weekday. It's going to end on Friday. This thing this thing's funded, so there's no risk of like it.
No, it'll 100% come out, but it'd be nice to get some other eyes on it, so people can grab. And there's choice of paperback and hardback and digital. If people, if space is a concern, they can just order the the digital version of the first and the second book. So there's a lot of really nice add-ons as well. There's some really nice prints by people like George Pratt and Tom Coker and John K. Snyder III and Andy Bennett, and some really nice stuff. And Dan Panosian, if you want to get the Panosian cover in black and white, you can get it as a print. It's fantastic. It looks so nice in black and white.
Oh, cool. John K. Snyder III. I love fashion in action. So yeah,
he's a great. And that he did that wonderful. What was it? My brain's not working. The Jess Akers Wagner. He did a miniseries like 25 years ago. Dr. Midnight. That's it. It's a great series, and drew that. So he's a very talented artist.
Right on. So yeah, do you have even you could get one the first issue as well, physical?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, cool. So yeah,
get it in paperback or hardback. That's the thing. It's a nice thing. There are a lot of options that people have. So if they want to catch up on the story, they can still grab the first book as part of the campaign. So in paperback or hardback.
Sweet. So yeah, people get on this. It's definitely worth your time.
Yeah, thank you.
We will be back on Tuesday. We're going to have AD Greenlee. They are a very cool up and coming cartoonist. We're going to be talking to them. So, check us out, man. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks again. Thanks for having me on. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Joel.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming.